Aum Sairam. Hara Hara Shankara, Jaya Jaya Shankara. Episode 39. Shri Mahaswami, the Sage with Eyes of Light. The Diary of a Seeker of Truth, Dr.Serge Demetrian. Dear devotees, now we shall listen to the second section of part 2 of this divine book under the subtitle The Lotus Pond. Karveti Nagar, Saturday, 8th October 1971. Conversation with an interior voice. This night I woke up only once. I meditated as much as possible and lay down once again. This allowed me to rise in the morning feeling rather well. The day seemed to start conveniently. A conversation took place with an interior voice, tenuous but clear, which replied straight away to any of my questions. According to the answers, my worries should come to an end. It would suffice during the hours when I am not at the hermitage, when I do not meditate nor read, that I do not forget the name of Ishvara. It would be enough to think of Sri Mahaswami or of the great goddess or of Adi Shankara or of Chandramaulishvara or of some spiritual text. It seems simple, but only apparently. Instead, the superficial part of the mind dramatizes and complicates imaginary talks, meetings, or events which I am sure will never take place. It is evident that the consequences of this state of affairs could be harmful. However, it seems that this tendency diminished. Once at the pond, I discovered Swamiji hiding in an obscure corner of the hut, but I could still see him from his left side. The lightning of bluish light was slowly blinking through his pupil and then through his entire eye. At every burst of the flare, I felt progressively invaded, bit by bit, by a blessing Sri Mahaswami had destined to remain in me. Here, the blessing had to accumulate and grow in the manner of the particles of the pearls that bring to birth other pearls until it transmutes everything into that beautiful nacre or pearl-like glow, just as a particle of diamond obliges the coal by a mysterious catalysis to discard the illusion of the impurity, and the lump of coal becomes itself a diamond. All the thoughts, all the problems of the world seemed insignificant compared with just a grain of divine presence in my heart. Everything from the worldly point of view loses its significance when compared to a soul minute past in contemplating Ishvara, who was showing himself in a single point of light, as small as a firefly. After 20 minutes, I understood that I had to leave. After one muhurta, I returned to the hermitage. I found Sri Mahaswami as if crouched in the same corner that was now darker, in an attitude of intense concentration. It was not even possible to distinguish the features of his face, which seemed to be an almost amorphous ball of robes, purplish, brown, black. I felt he was waiting for me and he will do something for me. This time the spark from the left eye seemed larger. It also lasted longer at its highest intensity. Swamiji turned his head towards me in a single movement to the appropriate angle so that I could clearly observe how the lightning came out through the pupil. A group of devotees from Madras came with a heap of offerings as to meet all the necessities of the hermitage for one good month. Taking advantage of this situation, Sri Mahaswami changed his place and moved towards the middle of the room, from where he showed me a superb foot brilliant of rosy white marble. Grasping his danda in hands, he stared at me. Both his iris, usually of brown color, were changed in two little wheels, dark blue in tension due to the pressure of the interior light that flashed in tube-like jets through the pupils. I came back to the mill. A little yellow butterfly, beautiful as a child's dream, had chosen to end its life on a white towel on my bed. How much beauty can be gathered on 50 millimeters length and 40 wide, wings included. The slender body was light yellow passing to light pink, the large eyes were black, the antennas and the long feet were fine, the back wings prolonged to the color of the central frame but were slightly golden in color, while those in front, larger, were amber colored and somewhat blue. All these nuances were in a pastel tint and slightly downy. Who has imagined such a delicate being? What reserves of imagination possessed the thought who created it? I laid it carefully on a sheet of clean white paper, its stretcher, and brought it out into the garden, and while thinking of Swamiji, I laid it at rest in between the petals of a white flower. In a few days, this butterfly will be only a pinch of powder among the billions of other natural cycles of life forms. Out of this slow and majestic dance of nature, a will might draw forth other forms of beauty in its own image and perhaps only for its joy. The fireflies, those moving sparks, abound here in uninhibited playfulness. If by night one looks casually at the sky, one can take any one of them for a shooting star which, detached from its place, describes circles, volutes or spirals, zigzags, and then falls in a sheer drop, meets another star and separates. Often, round the leafy crests of the forest, the swarms of minute planets dance unexpected rounds on a music of intricate rhythms heard only by these tiny incandescent caprices. This afternoon, I found Sri Mahaswami inside the hut and in the opposite disposition to this morning. He seemed not to be in a mood to show himself, although he was seated in the same corner and in the same conditions. For a darshan of some importance, the mind has to be prepared for 1 or 2 hours by the presence of Swamiji or through personal exertion. This time it seemed that it was not the case. I tried to show myself and receive his eyes inside me. It was impossible, as numerous devotees crowded and blocked the opening of the door. In this way, my customary place near the southern jamb of the door was always occupied. Finally, as I persisted, a band of ants were sent to scare me away. There were 10, at least, that ferociously bit me. On other days, when Sri Mahaswami grants intentionally his darshan, although I am placed exactly on the same place, that is, at a few centimeters from the same nest, the ants totally ignore me, even if inadvertently I might squash some of them. This is a sort of warnings I regularly receive. If I insist seeing him without being sufficiently prepared, or if I try to extend a darshan beyond the reception capacities of my organism to receive the blessing, I never ignore these signs. I have also to be attentive to the signs of headache or 2 prickles on the nape of the neck and in the left shoulder, or to numbness and tingling sensation in the limbs. Finally, to giddiness and faint feeling of malaise. After a slow round of the pond and a period of japa, I felt better. I perceived in my heart the presence of Sri Mahaswami, although I was far off from the hermitage. I came nearer and observed that he was preparing himself to come out for the evening's ablutions. It was 8 p.m. Usually he takes his evening bath between 5 and 6 p.m. Once near the hermitage, I saw him almost undressed with the exception of his orange loin cloth, pacing from the northern to the southern side of the hermitage. It was as if he came to meet me. With the kamandalu in his right hand and the danda in the left one, he soon turned towards his left and went swiftly down the some 15 stairs to the water without a stumble, although no assistant was there to accompany him as it is customary. He sat on the last step, while I stood on the same level at some 8 meters to his right. When he plunged his hand into the water for the extended blessing, I hurried and sprinkled myself 6 times. Then I remained in the water up to the ankles, even though the immersed steps of the reservoir extend deep under the visible surface of the lake. I felt the electric current that came to me through the waters from the side where Swamiji performed the rituals. All of a sudden, I had the urge to meditate. I stepped out of the water and sat on a dry step. The meditation was rather surprising. Sri Mahaswami brought together my eyes, which were charged with light, up to the center in between my eyebrows. The brilliance extended itself up and down in a scintillating pillar and became a large and beautiful golden crucifix. The intersection of the 4 parts of the crucifix seemed a solar disk. All of a sudden, I heard voices that were speaking directly in the heart. They united, and I clearly heard these words: "Do you want to follow the way of Jesus or of Sri Mahaswami? He is the Son of God, as is Jesus." What was the language I was hearing? Well, I think it was universal language, the one which is the base of all others and is transmitted without the accustomed medium of any sign heard or written. I was able to hear directly the sense or the meaning of the words. I decisively chose the way of Sri Mahaswami. The rest of my mind, that was still active, declared, "It is better for me to stay with Sri Mahaswami. He is the Son of God just as Jesus was, and he is in front of me. In this world, he is the Son of God of the present times." Immediately the crucifix perished. Then the 2 lights from behind my eyes became even more concentrated, showing the tendency to unite this time on the middle line of the body and become a central pillar of white bluish light which lasted only a few minutes. Once my eyes reopened, I saw Sri Mahaswami swiftly climbing the steps. As he does not see beyond 3 meters, it is almost a miracle that he can run up the steps by daylight. What to say about the night? Is it that another sense of sight than the one of ordinary mortals guides him? When he entered his room, I noticed the particular care he showed in order not to look directly to my face. He lay down on the earth itself on a mat covered by a slightly thicker valkalam, that is his bedding. He covered himself from head to feet with his orange cloth long enough to make a pillow. When he does not use as head support, his elbow or both hands united. He is so relaxed that once on his bed, he is no more in need of any other support, for there is no separation between himself and the earth, the primal form and seat of the great goddess, the Mother Nature. Devotees, we shall continue to listen to the lotus pond in the coming episode, bowing at the holy feet of the Gurus. Aum Sairam. Hara Hara Shankara, Jaya Jaya Shankara.